This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. I asked, you answered. Of the 3 specialty smartwatches I covered a few weeks back, Mobvoi's TicWatch Pro 4G LTE won the poll for the watch you'd most like to see reviewed.
So, it's time to give the people what they want. Even though, in my view, this smartwatch does a lot of the opposite.
Let me justify that pessimistic lead-in by recapping some of my complaints from the last video. Style is crucially important to a smartwatch, more so than a smartphone that most people will put in a case. And the TicWatch Pro 4G LTE just kind of feels like it has a split personality there. It has this fine textured knurling and minimal bezel markings, like a dressy watch, but a blocky plastic and metal casing and generic rubber wristband more suited to a fitness tracker. And man, Mobvoi's refusal to include a rotating side button really twists my hairspring. A rotating crown makes a huge difference in how easy Wear OS is to use, and on a TicWatch, it's an especially big shame to miss it. Because remember, this is the company that back in 2017 brought us the Tickle Strip, one of the most interesting wearable interfaces ever. I'd have loved it if Mobvoi used those close Google contacts it's always talking about to figure out a way to make this work with Wear OS. But instead, we just get 2 buttons and a touchscreen. It's just kind of weak. Okay, let's talk about some things this watch gets right, because there are quite a few. I feel like I've talked this dual-layer display to death, so longtime subscribers, please forgive me, but I'll never get tired of saying what a great idea it is. When other smartwatches want to give you an always-on display, they have to do it using minimal power, so it's usually a dim or low-contrast watch face that's tough to see in sunlight. A display like this, with the LCD placed atop the OLED, gives the TicWatch Pro the most readable outdoor watch face you can get, unless you want a huge Casio or a pricey Garmin. And when the watch's battery dies, which it does often, stay tuned for that LCD is so economical on power that it can keep telling you the time, your heart rate, and step count for up to a month. The speaker is new, and it's nice and loud, so talking to Google Assistant on your wrist is easier than on other wearables.
The time in New York, USA is 6:17 a.m.
And alarms have a real, alarm to go along with the vibration. Mil standard 810G and IP68 dust and water resistance mean you probably don't need to worry about hurting this thing unless you're climbing a volcano or something. And while the watch is built around the old Snapdragon 2100 platform instead of the newer 3100, you barely notice it. All you really need to make Wear OS run smoothly seems to be a gig of RAM, which is present and accounted for here. Also, keep in mind, most of the 3100's improvements are designed for watches running an always-on display. TicWatch sidesteps this, thanks to its dual-layer watch face. The real claim to fame here is in the suffix on the brand name. This is one of the only Wear OS watches you can buy with its own 4G LTE radio. I've been using it on Verizon, the exclusive carrier in the United States, for about 12 days, and it does what you'd expect. You can make and take phone calls, send and get text messages, and get notifications when you want to leave your phone at home. When the speaker isn't loud enough for you, as it wasn't when I was trying to take this conference call out in public, you can pair a Bluetooth headset to the watch, and that works well too. Mostly this functionality is useful on runs or walks, and the Tic Exercise Suite is pretty handy for those too. I enjoyed mapping my cross-town treks using the built-in GPS, which locked on quickly and seemed accurate. Careful though, that kind of exercise will burn more than calories. I found that using the GPS in concert with the LTE ate about 20% battery per hour. And even if you never touch the exercise stuff, the TicWatch Pro 4G has worse battery life than its predecessor in my testing. Last year's model reliably got me 3 days per charge, but this one is almost always down to 50% by the end of the first day. Mobvoi likes to advertise this as one of the longest-lasting Wear OS devices, but that's only if you switch it to the Essential mode I called out before, which takes all the smart out of this watch. It's kind of like saying you have the longest-lasting electric car, but you're not allowed to drive it. You're only allowed to, turn on the radio. In reality, it's just another 1 to 2 day smartwatch, and that's a shame. My final thoughts after a quick word from my sponsor about staying safe on the internet. You've probably heard me talk about my sponsor, Surfshark VPN, but you might not have heard about its latest feature. HackLock is fun to say, and it's also kind of like a tripwire for online security. It keeps an eye on your personal information and alerts you if it sees something awry, so you can take action before it gets out of control. Punch in your email address and you can see if you've been the subject of any data breaches, so you know which passwords you need to change before it's too late. You can also run your old passwords through HackLock to see if any of them have leaked, which is a handy feature I haven't seen before. And of course, you get all the internet security and convenience features already built into Surfshark as well. Try Surfshark VPN now at the link below and use promo code MrMobile. You'll get 83% off a year's subscription and 1 month absolutely free. My principal beef with the TicWatch Pro 4G LTE, it solves the wrong problem. Most of us weren't asking for a Wear OS device we could use without our phone. We wanted a watch that would fix the problems with Wear OS, like that short battery life, or the inconsistent responsiveness, or the abundance of forgettable hardware designs. You might say that most of that lies with Google, and you're right, but you only need to look as far as my Fossil Gen 5 video to see a company that's actively working on its own solutions to the platform's shortcomings, while bringing much more attractive hardware that's built on the latest silicon. Wear OS continues to be my preferred wearable platform, despite its flaws, and I think we'll soon get to the point where a Wear OS watch that costs $300 plus an extra $10 a month for 4G will actually be worth it. But this hypothetical future smartwatch, it isn't the TicWatch Pro 4G LTE. Folks, there's a ton of smartwatch news due at IFA 2019 in Berlin starting in early September. Follow me on Instagram so you can see that news as soon as it drops. This video made possible by a review sample from Mobvoi and a media account from Verizon. No compensation or copy approval was provided. Mobvoi is seeing this video at the same time you are. Please subscribe on YouTube if that's the kind of review you'd like to see more of. Until next time, thanks for watching, and stay mobile, my friends.